This is a death penalty case in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is begging the Supreme Court not to make it kill a man. You heard that right. So, let me give you a few thoughts on this. What's one more human being, right? What's it matter if this country murders one more innocent person? The U.S. has murdered millions of innocent people around the globe over the past quarter century. So what's another guy? We're an empire built from our founding days on genocide. So what's one more dude? And this particular guy actually had some sort of legal proceeding before the state of Oklahoma decided they'd put him on the murder schedule. The state of Oklahoma has a bunch of folks they plan to murder this year, and they'd really like to get to it. So could you just help us out, speed it up? But something's a little different with this one. In this rare case, the state of Oklahoma is actually asking the Supreme Court to stop them from murdering the man. Even the Attorney General, Gentner Drummond, has confessed errors and seeks to vacate the conviction. But then again, the Attorney General's name is Gentner, which is not a name. So how much can you trust a guy like that? The soon-to-be victim's name is Richard Glossip. And basically, the state destroyed key evidence. They've admitted destroying key evidence before his retrial so that he could not use it in his defense, and they could not do the DNA testing that might have found him innocent. Despite the Attorney General asking that Glossip be spared, do you understand what's happening here? The people that prosecuted him are now asking that he be freed, that he be spared. And yet the governor has not agreed. The governor, Kevin Stitt, also not a name, has said, let the chips fall where they may. If we murder them, we murder them. Who gives a tip of a turd? He didn't actually say that, but that's the way he's acting. That's totally how he's acting. So now we're waiting to see whether the Supreme Court will save the life of a man who even the guy who convicted him said should be released. In the uniquely brutal justice system of the U.S. empire, this case is even more disturbing than normal, which says a lot. It's like saying the Zodiac killer was really kind of harsh on this last couple of people he killed. These couple were too much. But in many ways, it doesn't matter who this particular wrongly convicted man is. The entire capital punishment system is utterly insane. Let me count the ways for you. 1, it murders innocent people, often. Cameron Todd Willingham, Troy Davis, Carlos DeLuna, and countless others who have been murdered by the death penalty despite being innocent. Then there's 190 people since 1973 who have been sitting on death row waiting to be executed when they were exonerated and finally freed. 190. Number 2, it's racially biased in multiple ways. The number one determinant of whether someone gets sentenced to be permanently wrenched from their earthly vessel is actually the race of the victim. That's right. If you're going to murder someone, you should apparently aim for black people because our tragically mentally ill society has decided they matter a lot less, and therefore murdering them also matters a lot less. But on top of that, studies have found that the people who chose who lives and who dies are almost exclusively white. Number 3, it does not serve as a deterrent. You may find this shocking, but killing a bunch of convicted murderers decades after they were accused of murdering someone does not stop would-be murderers from deciding to murder someone. Does that make sense? I do not find this shocking because I am also certain that the common thought going through someone's head while they're committing murder is something like, ah! I figure. It's kind of like that. Even if I'm wrong about that, I seriously doubt your average killer is postulating what their sentence would be if they happen to get caught. There are 2 reasons for this. A, they're filled with rage and other unleashed emotions. And B, no one thinks they're going to get caught. That's kind of why people murder. They don't think they're going to get caught. Anyway, point being, killing killers does not stop any killers from killing. It just makes you a killer. Number 4, it does not bring back any victims. Not even one. Number 5, it does not save money. I mean, even if it did save some money, why the fuck are you choosing who lives and dies based on a few bucks? But that aside, people seem to think it saves tax dollars to kill people, but it doesn't because of mandatory appeals and the court process and everything else. It actually doesn't save any money. Number 6, most countries have banned the death penalty. Apparently, most countries are more evolved than the U.S. Shocked. This is my stunned face. Number 7, it's always brutal. The murder of a human being will always be brutal, no matter what tactic they use. At least until someone comes up with a Rube Goldberg machine where someone pushes a switch downtown and then a ball and a ball bearing and some propellers and a slinky go off and then a dart hits the guy in the neck and he's dead before he even feels it. Until they get to that, brutal. Number 8, it does not decrease crime. Nope, sorry. No study has ever shown that death penalty decreases any crime, murder, or even totally able-bodied people parking in handicap spots. None of it decreases because of you killing some people. Number 9, an eye for an eye is not the way our legal system works on anything. It may sound neat to say an eye for an eye, but that's not how it works. If someone steals your identity, you don't get to steal theirs. If someone burns your house down, you don't get to burn theirs. If someone replaces your prize-winning Labradoodle with a completely average guinea pig in the dead of the night, you don't get to do the same to them. You don't at all. An eye for an eye is not how anything works. So shut up. Number 10, what would you do if someone killed your family is a super dumb question. That's one of the last things that people fall back on when they're trying to defend death penalty. They go, what would you do if someone killed your family? And here's the thing. It doesn't matter what your response is to that question. Even if you think, I would like to see the murderer of my family torn into tiny little bits by feral rabid cats, it wouldn't matter. Because we as a society do not figure out our legal system by thinking about how we would behave if we were in an incoherent, unhinged state of endless rage. That is not useful for anything. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the exact opposite of how we should set up our justice system. Otherwise, the legal punishment for stealing someone's bicycle would be that they get to chop your arm off and feed it to an alligator. It'd be insane. And lastly, the people of U.S. history who have killed the most people have not been executed, have not been prosecuted, have not been convicted, and have not been punished. Okay? Some of the biggest murderers who call the U.S. home are the war criminals at the top of this government and the sociopaths at the top of the military-industrial complex. Somewhere between 4.5, I mentioned this earlier, 4.5 and 6 million people have been killed by America's global war on terror. Okay? None of the people responsible for those mass murders will be prosecuted in any way. Also on the list of accomplished serial murderers are many corporate titans, everything from fossil fuel companies to opioid makers to big banks, who have murdered, maimed, and masticated millions. These criminals will not just not be prosecuted, many of them will be rewarded handsomely. And they will end up on the cover of a magazine so that we can all worship them like they're the highest achievers. Point being, when you think of the sheer horror and destruction wrought by the U.S. empire, what's one more innocent person, you know? Clearly, no one should care if Oklahoma murders Richard Glossip, despite knowing that they completely shredded his one shot at a fair trial.